Hey folks, welcome back. Been a while since I've done much of a way of a video because T and I have been really busy out here getting things done on the homestead, and well, I've gotten an opportunity to have some wonderful company here. I've got a buddy of mine that you saw in a video that I did just a few weeks ago. I shared his channel with you. This is Paul, aka on YouTube, Mobile Bay Prepper is a new channel that you're starting out, and he finally came up to visit because we were trying to discuss on how to make videos and techniques and stuff like that. So
didn't have good luck, did we?
no, not online like that. So there's some learning that you're doing on the video side of things. So he come up here, and I outfitted him with a laptop. We're going to try and share some stuff with him so he can make some more videos, and then because what he wanted to do originally is us do like a Zoom video or something where we were interviewing each other or interviewing him, and couldn't get the Zoom to work. So he come up here from Mobile Bay down there in Alabama. We met. This is the guy, I tell you, it was the first fan interaction that from somebody who come up to me. So, well, I was up here in Montana, and T and I had just eaten dinner, and we come out of the brewery. There's a bunch of breweries up there in Montana, and boy, they got some good beer. And we come out, and this guy hollers at me out of his Toyota, and you said, "I know you."
Yeah, I was watching your YouTube videos, and I didn't even know that you were living in the Bitterroot, but I saw some mountains in the background, and I said, "Damn, that looks like the Bitterroot Mountains." And yeah, and then maybe a week or two after that, that's when I saw you.
Wasn't that long?
You were coming out of the brewery, and then we had to go right back in and drink another beer or two.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was like, whoa.
Must have been my southern accent. She couldn't resist it.
Yeah, it's that southern. That's why I married her. It's just that southern accent.
Southern Wyoming.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, her accent.
No, nobody in Wyoming's got this. Nope.
No, that came from you working at the truck stop.
Mine is because my mom worked at truck stops, and she picked it up, and when I started learning to talk, that's just the way it was.
Yep, you got that redneck in you. From the truckers.
From
oh my God, what origins we come from. So Paul, he and I got to knowing each other up in Montana, and then before I left, he said, "I've had enough of the cold," and he said, "I want to get back in that heat."
Yeah, I needed the heat and humidity, and I needed to see my live oak trees and my Spanish moss and my azaleas blooming in the spring, and I miss my seafood.
Yeah, see, so you brought us some treats up there.
I did.
Brought us some Gulf shrimp. I can't wait to get into those. But anyway, he came up here so that we could help each other out in a few ways, and figured we'd share a little of our visit. We're gonna kind of walk around. So he's seen all this stuff in the video, but like everybody who's been here, once they get here, it's totally different looking at it outside the camera, because you can just something more real about it, and there's things that you don't see in the videos that sometimes pop out when you're standing here. And one of the big things that we wanted to do while he was here is to do some plant swaps. So he's going to be picking up some things that he doesn't have, like maybe it's wrong.
The purple sweet potatoes.
The sweet potatoes, because they do real good. He likes them.
The hops.
We're going to try and get some hops. There's some other things.
Some mint.
Yeah. So we're going to go around. We're going to talk about. We're going to share some thoughts on growing techniques, because this is the thing. This guy was on it when we were first together. So when I first started my YouTube channel, the big thing I wanted everybody to take away, and most of you who've been around for a long time, is my motto, my thing that I said was grow a garden. Learn how to produce food for yourself, because no matter what happens with all these stupid things that we have now seen come true since I started, and more are coming. You know, we can't talk about so much without getting dinged by the fascists that be out of Silicon Valley. So we're all about growing food, and Paul loves to grow food. And for those of you who've seen some of his videos, he's got a really nice little garden going down there. But he's down in a different climate.
Different climate, different soil.
Different soil.
For sure. And a different method.
Different methods.
And like I said, the reason I do raised beds because I had a mole problem in my backyard, and it just, every time I'd plant potatoes, sweet potatoes, and, you know, stuff like that, the moles will gobble it up before I got a chance to get to it. So what I did was I used raised beds, and I put 1/2-inch hardwood cloth underneath the bottom.
Keep
the moles. Yeah, the earthworms can still get in, but the moles can't get in there. And so I like the look of raised beds, but that's not the #1 reason why I did it. That was the #1 reason, was the mole problem. But, you know, whatever works.
We had, you know. I mean, we're gonna walk around. We're gonna talk about a few things and different growing conditions, because, you know, T and I are literally trying to make our own dirt here, and we're going through a lot of trials and tribulations. I say this on purpose, of how we're going about getting stuff to grow. Some things are working, some things aren't, and he has issues where some things work and some things don't. And the point that both of us are going to try and get across is there's a solution. You just got to figure it out. And finding people who have experienced that situation and can maybe offer some success stories. Remember what I talk about, law of attraction. Find people who have succeeded at what you want, and then just follow their recipe. It's real simple, and anybody can do anything. And the great thing about YouTube is there's pretty much answers up for anything now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Almost, and that's what we're about, because, you know, we all want to help each other, and that's why you finally said, you know, I want to do this too, because, you know, it ain't easy. You're having the same challenges.
I'm no expert at YouTube. I mean, I just wanted to just start a channel and see what happens. Just, if nothing else, just have fun, drink beer out in my garden, but just kind of, you know, show people what I'm doing, that you can grow even if you don't have a whole lot of space. There's creative ways to do things.
Oh yeah.
You know, and no excuses. I mean,
no.
I run a full-time painting business, and
yeah,
sometimes I'm outside watering in my garden at night. I mean, that's just the only time I have to do it, but I make it happen.
And for those of you, he's already got his merch thing figured out.
That's my painting company.
Yep.
Down in Daphne, Alabama. It's across the bay from Mobile.
So he's got. Maybe I need to do some merch sometime. I don't know.
Yeah.
My merch is. Get rid of this dude before he gets too established. My merch has been the things that I make, and that's what I'm going to focus on as well. And t-shirts and hats are a fun way to support other creators.
Turn around again, honey. Y'all, this picture, his wife took that lovely picture, and she's got beautiful photography.
That's her thing.
She's great at her photography.
So she gets flown. She gets flown all over the place to do weddings. Well,
Well, she flies mostly out to Montana to hike.
Yeah.
She just came back on Tuesday from the last time she was out there, but she's gone up to Indiana, you know, all around Florida, and done, I think, some shoots in Montana, like you know, in Idaho, with some of her friends out there. But she's a CrossFit coach, and she's a photographer, and she sells guns.
Oh. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah, the Gold Mine Pawn Shop in Daphne.
Oh yeah, well maybe she needs to be. You should have brought some of those gifts up. I don't want a T-shirt. I want some pew pews. So anyway,
Rudy calls them pea shooters.
Pea shooters.
Yeah.
Boomsticks.
Yeah.
So we got a nice little visit here. T and I were in preps of. We're always working, so if you spin around there, honey, you can see we're finally working on trying to get the pole mount set up out here for this cabin where he's staying. So this is just a temporary setup. It got stinking hot out here the last few days. Y'all remember a few videos back I did a video on how much rain we were getting. Well, we got 4 inches that day. I only showed you 3 in the video. We got a whole another inch of rain, and then it quit. The problem we have, and let's talk about that with soil conditions, because I'm working on clay, and there's a lot of rock in here, and we keep pulling out the rock because we're working in clay. When the sun hits it, it bakes it, and it bakes it dry and hard fast, which makes it really hard for new seedlings to pop up if it bakes it too dry. And with it being too wet, I mean, we planted beans over there 3 times, and I'm hoping this 3rd time it finally pops up, because once this clay settles around a seedling, it can literally lock it in like concrete, and that seedling has a real hard time trying to push through. So there's challenges in that. So you got better soil down there.
I got real sandy soil.
Real sandy soil. But you said you also got to amend yours.
I put compost in it, and I also had topsoil, but it's got a little bit of clay mixed in with it, just for the minerals. But yeah, it's real sandy, and it does dry out, but it's just like powdery sand.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, of course, if you dig down a little bit, it's gritty. But in my raised beds, I have, you know, the compost. I add in alfalfa pellets.
The chicken poo.
Yeah, the chicken. Chicken poo, either fresh. I make my liquid fertilizer out of that. Just add in the chicken poo and whatever else I can throw in there, and make like what's called Dave's Vetted Swamp Water. You know, I was telling you about Dave.
Yeah.
Survival gardening with David the Good.
Another YouTuber.
He makes a big, you know, tub of it's called Dave's Vetted Swamp Water, and he just throws all kinds of stuff in it and just lets it stew. And I believe it's anaerobic bacteria.
Yeah. Does he put the aerator in it?
No, he does not do that method. He just lets it sit. Now he goes and stirs it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So he aerates it by hand then.
Yeah.
Well, there's different ways of doing it, but the concept is this: you make a compost tea.
Yeah.
And one of these days we might get into that. I'm more of an older traditional. I just want the dirt to put it in, and I want to make sure the dirt has what it needs in to grow it. And doing the compost tea helps that. But we've been more direct. So you didn't have chickens until you moved back to Mobile, and then you.
Yeah. I didn't get chickens until the summer of 2019, I believe. That's when I built my chicken coop, and I started off with 3 birds, and then one of them died. And then the next spring, I think the spring of 2020, when COVID first hit, I got about, I don't know, 12 more birds or so.
And you got ducks.
And I had 2 ducks. I had a male and a female ruined duck, and then the female died, so I was stuck with the male duck, and he was attacking my chickens.
He was doing the job.
Yeah, he was trying. He was actually getting after them.
yeah.
That's all he had. He didn't have any ducks, so he said, well,
I'll take a chicken. Hey,
there's food.
So we ended up giving him to a friend that had a pond, and had a bunch of ducks too. And so my wife, a few days ago, went and dropped him off over there, and then we ended up getting 2 pecan ducks,
which we got a bunch of.
And I'm not sure if they're both females or one's a male and a female. I'm not sure, but I know one's a female because she's loud as crap. So
yeah, we're not sure about ours, and we do. You know, I didn't want 8, and we're going to cut them down to either 4 or 5, depending upon what we have. But they're actually from what I've been reading up, they're actually a good meat bird, like the Cornish cross rocks, the ones that everybody buy for meat birds that we got a few of this year. Those are very fast growing, and they got a lot of meat on these ducks, so they're a good meat producer. So we're going to be putting some of those in the freezer.
And I don't have near as much room as they have here, but I have a backyard. You know, my neighborhood was built in the late 50s. There's no HOA. It's all grandfathered in. So I kind of have some leeway about having chickens and stuff. There's no rules, really. I don't have a rooster because I don't want the noise ordinance deal. And I don't want to be pissing off my neighbors. So, because I mean, me and Allie don't want to hear the noise either in the backyard, waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning hearing a rooster. But we do have the hens, you know. They're a little noisy, but they're not too bad.
Did you hear them this morning?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we every night T puts our roosters into a cat carrier in the backside underneath some nesting boxes to try and quiet them down. But it's so quiet out here.
Yeah.
A little noise like that carries real well. But let's go up here and talk about the potatoes, because you and I do different on that. All right, so potatoes are a big crop. They're a big crop because they're good and they're storable, and the whole thing about that where we're all moving back to and producing our own food is producing the food, but you got to be able to store it throughout the seasons. And potatoes, carrots, beets, root crops, those are always good storable food and allow you to carry food from the growing season where it's fresh into the winter seasons when you might be in a climate like we are here where it gets too cold to have stuff out there. Set aside the whole reasoning why you need the greenhouse. Potatoes are a hard one. There are certain climates that they are really, really good at growing certain things, and that's why I think you've seen the diversification of growing in different regions of the country and the world because of what grows best in those conditions. But that doesn't work if you're trying to be sustainable on your own farm. You need to figure it out wherever you're at, how you're going to grow it. And for me, I've always been, dig it in the dirt. This is what I learned, hill up the mounds and let them do their thing. It's pretty much what they do with all the, commercial potatoes up in Idaho. But we've seen multiple methods of growing potatoes, and you do yours in your raised beds as well. So is there anything different or special besides just the amendment to the soil?
Well, potatoes like acid soil for one.
Face camera. You got that's another habit you got to get in. You're talking to them, so you gotta face them.
Potatoes like acid soil.
Yes.
And my soil is kind of acid.
Yeah.
But it's not like super acidic. What I do is, my raised beds, before I add the, put the potatoes in the ground, I don't know, about a month or 6 weeks before, I put the alfalfa pellets in, and I add in bone meal, because bone meal, it's got good phosphorus in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I go ahead and add it in early, a few weeks before, and then I just turn that soil over. Add chicken manure. The granulated fertilizer. That's a 4-3-2 NPK. But I add all that together, and then, basically I just mulch it and let it sit. And then I just go in after several weeks, and when I plant the potatoes, all that soil is good and,
loamy and mixed and blended in.
Right. And then, the mulch, you put the potatoes in, and they'll just shoot right up to that mulch. And so, like right now, they're, 2.5 feet high.
Yeah. So, but you see mine, mine are barely a foot off the ground.
Yeah.
So they're not going to get super big.
You got clay and rocky soil here.
Yeah.
And, that's just one of the advantages I got, I guess, with the soil I've got, you could do raised beds in any soil because it's just above the ground, but...
Yeah, you can create your own dirt.
Right.
So the method that, if you're limited on space, one of the biggest methods, and there's tons of videos out there on YouTube about, growing in 5-gallon buckets or growing in 55-gallon barrels. And potatoes, if you can get them to grow and you got good soil and you can keep them growing, I've seen videos and folks, now I've never been able to do this. This is the only way I've ever succeeded, but there's guys that'll go out there and they'll take a 55-gallon drum, they'll put potatoes in, put some straw or soil or whatever medium that they're going to grow in, because you can grow them straight in straw.
I've tried that and I didn't have any success.
Yeah, we got to add, then you have to do like hydroponics and make sure that your water that you water them with has the nutrients in it.
Right.
You got to add that in more like hydroponics does, where you have just the water with the nutrients in it. Anyway, I've seen this happen, and there was this guy that we saw near where we used to live up there in Missoula. Mm-hmm. That's all he had around, and we would drive by his place, and all he had was 55-gallon barrels, and all his tomatoes would come out of those, and his potatoes, and he would start at the bottom, and they'd start coming up, then he'd cover them, then they'd start coming up, he'd cover them, and so on and so forth. And every time he put a layer through the summer, put a layer of either dirt or compost on it, they'd put out more spuds. And he said he'd turn that barrel over and there'd be potatoes falling out all over. Now, I couldn't seem to ever make that work. We've tried the half barrels over here, and the one set of plants, all we got was the little ones. We couldn't get the big ones. But up there in Corvallis, when we met, that soil up there, I did this right here, and I could.
I remember it was awesome.
Freaking you saw it. You brought your boy over, and we were out. I mean, we had tarps laid out over 1,200 pounds that one year. 1,200 pounds.
Yeah.
So each one of these gray Walmart tubs, if you fill one of those Walmart tubs up with potatoes, it's about 100 pounds. We had 12 of those tubs full in an area about twice this size. It was about and we would have, oh my God, monster freaking potatoes.
Yeah.
But that was there, not here. Right now, the best potatoes that we have that come up in here are the fingerlings, the little long fingerling potatoes.
Yeah.
You're growing the purple ones.
I'm growing
Peruvians.
Yeah, it says blue on the package.
Yeah, the Peruvian
but
blues.
They're purple, kind of like the purple majesties.
Yeah.
And then I'm growing Yukon Gold, some type of russet, and then little red potatoes.
So we got the reds, we got russets, we got the purples, I think, and I think these here were the Yukons.
I think so.
And then I think these were whites, and then all of these up here, well, these two rows, I think these were the fingerlings, because you can see the difference in the leaf structure. They're slightly different looking. This is a broader leaf. But the big issue is, doesn't matter where you're at, you have to figure out what's the recipe that works in your climate, how to make or create the soil that you need, and figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're heavy feeders. They're super heavy feeders. You gotta just keep the fertilizer to them, and good compost too is.
Yeah.
I've had luck with it. You just gotta use that compost, and just keep it as organic as you can.
Keep the chemicals out if you can.
The alfalfa pellets really help though.
Now, I've never heard of that. Where did you hear about putting alfalfa in?
I think I first heard it from Gary Pillichek. He's got a YouTube channel called The Rusted Garden. He's up in Maryland. He's awesome. I mean, he knows his stuff. And, just bits and pieces from different channels. Scott Head down in Texas. He's more of a backyard garden, kind of like me. He's a backyard gardener. He does stuff in the concrete cinder block raised beds. He does that. And he has some fruit trees and stuff like that. But Gary Pillichek this guy's a freaking genius. He knows all the little small details. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that got me on to doing the alfalfa pellets. And ever since I've done that, it's just changed my garden.
Because it puts that much more organic matter in it?
It's a lot of nitrogen, minerals, and it's a slow release. It's just slow release. You can't overdo it. I mean, just take a cup and just scoop it out and just sprinkle it all over your garden. And he says if you want to add 2 or 3 cups, it doesn't matter because it's not going to burn your plants because it's all organic. It's just a slow release, natural fertilizer. I mean, it's not a fertilizer. It's just,
it's dry. It's
alfalfa.
Alfalfa.
Yeah. So, but it really works. And
I think
it's the bone meal. I use the bone meal a lot for my root vegetables. In the sweet potatoes, and in the wintertime I do the turnips and the rutabagas.
Yeah.
And they really help. Or the bone meal helps with those. So that's what I do, and it works great.
Well, again, I go back to the statement. You got to find out what works best in your area based on the climate and whether you can do it in the soil. And I think we're going to improve this year in and year out. We'll get more organic matter. One of these days, I'm going to take my trailer. I'm going to go up to my dairy farmer, and I'm going to have him load it up with some cow manure. And I've already done that once, but I'd like to add a heck of a lot more organic matter into this. It's still not enough because when the sun hits it, like yesterday, but when you got here before we got the rain, we got about 1.25 inch thunderstorm last night, which is good. We were really needing it. We were really getting baked dry. But you could look at this, and I mean, it was desert. It was
super
dry and nasty looking. So we needed that. So there's ways to do it no matter where you're at. You can
gotta figure it out.
You got to figure it out. All right, so you kind of like my garlic patch, and I'm doing pretty good with it. But what's your questions and issues with yours? You said you're not getting a robust.
Well, I'm getting bulbs, but they're not huge.
They're not huge.
Yeah, they're not very big. They look good, but they're just not that big. And I don't know if I'm underwatering, overwatering, or if I don't have them in the right type of soil. Maybe, you know, my soil might be a little too acid for it. If I need to put them in a separate bed.
But they're growing and they look
healthy.
healthy
They're
like
just not
this.
super big.
All right, so one of the tricks, or one of the things that you need to do to make sure you get a larger bulb is, and this is the time we should actually like shut the camera off, and we should actually like just get to doing this because it is time. So we'll pull out a.
Here, we'll just show them and then we'll.
Yeah, we're showing. So it's just like a bulb, just like an onion, and let me get that dude right there. Squish out that nasty thing. All right, so this is called the garlic scape. And what happens is, this is the flower, and just like with the onions up here that have a flower, they all do the same thing, just like a daffodil or all these bulb kind of plants. They send up a shoot with a flower on it.
See, I haven't had any garlic do that yet.
Well, maybe then maybe your garlic needs
more time.
No. Let me think about it. But this technique I know works for sure. If you haven't gotten escapes, what you want to do is you want to cut off the scape. This right here is considered a delicacy for those who have not grown garlic. There's 2 harvest points in the garlic cycle. And one is to get the scapes. That's your early one. And these are really great in soups and stuff. They tend to be a lot spicier. Taste the...
They're good in sautés, especially.
Really good.
Yeah, I can imagine that like stir fry.
Oh,
yeah.
So you can dice these up like chives.
Mm-hmm.
You can dice these up like you would mash up your garlic and put it in anything you want garlic in. But here's what happens. If you come through here and you take and cut off the scapes on all of these, of course Shadow's going to do her photo bombing. If you cut off the scapes, what happens is that stops all that growing energy from going up into the flower, into the little seedlings, and it makes the growing energy stay in the bulb. So if your garlic is going to flower and going to scapes, then that's the easiest thing to try to make sure you keep as much energy down in the bulb itself and getting the garlic cloves out of that bulb. So that's the first thing I would suggest. Now, if you're not getting, if they're not going to flower, if they're not bolting,
bolting,
then I would say that's probably because they act very much like a grass. So I would say maybe some more nitrogen or some lime. You can see, like in this patch right here. This whole area that we've got the garlic in is one of the areas that T and I burned up a lot of the brush when we were clearing out this area. So there's a lot of potash and ashes in the lower section, but there wasn't as much up here. If you notice, these leaves down there are far greener, and these leaves right here are starting to yellow out already. So your soil conditions do make a big difference in it. So there's something that the garlic's going to need. Now, obviously, all of mine has done really well, but I've done a lot of the Bloomin' Minerals. You know, you used a different stuff, but I'm thinking what you said, they pull it out of what was that?
I use azomite.
Azomite. That's A to Z.
Organic minerals and trace elements.
Organic azomite, and you showed me that you can order. I use the Bloomin' Minerals, and they both. I think they both come from the same mine because you said it was up in Utah, and I think that's where.
So azomite is mined out of Utah.
Yeah, or Utah.
I think so.
Yeah, because I think that's where. I'm pretty sure that's where Longevity's minerals come from too. But anyway, the point is you want to get that wide variety of minerals. So we put that in when we had the soil test. It said it was low in sulfur, so I've added sulfur. And there you go. I mean, you got to figure out what you need in the way of dirt. What I do know is this: garlic likes heat. Okay.
Well, I got plenty of that where I'm from.
So you should be able to grow it pretty well down there.
Yeah. Maybe I'm planting it at the wrong time.
I don't know about the humidity. Okay, so again, back to who produces it the best. What's the best recipe? So if you go and look for the best climate and stuff, Idaho's great for potatoes, but they don't do garlic up there. Where do they do the garlic? They do it in Gilroy, California, which is just south of the San Francisco Bay. I've been through there, and it's crazy at this time of year when you drive through, just driving through on the interstate going from San Jose down to LA. If you're driving down there, you drive through Gilroy and you choke to death on the smell of garlic. I mean, it is that strong because and that's all they do. So you look at their dirt, you look at their soil, you look at their climate, and that's why they're doing that there, because that's like the best conditions for garlic.
Yeah.
So there's something missing that you probably need to add to it to get these to go. Now, the next question I ask is, garlic is also a 2-year plant. You know that, right?
No.
Oh, see, there's another thing. See, that patch of garlic that's up there, okay? Our friend John up here in Missouri, he gave me a sandwich baggie full of all the garlic clove seeds. So if you let this go to seed, you'll end up with a bunch of little seedlings, little garlic clove seedlings on top of it. They're tiny, they're only about this big, and we took that and I just scattered them there. And last year's growing season, they grew up and they looked like small little onions. They didn't get very big. They were like these little dudes down here. They really just didn't get big. It is the second year that they'll do this. So if you've pulled your garlic the first year, it would not have bloomed. None of those have bloomed the first year. And this is the second year, and right now there's only a few of them that have started to scape out.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Do you know the cycle of your, that could be an issue too.
No, I definitely have a lot more to learn with the garlic, for sure.
And so the best way to do it with garlic is to make sure you get soil that it works in. That's a big issue, is making sure it works in the soil. But you always plant, they're like bulbs. That's why does Walmart and all these stores put their flower bulbs out in the fall? Because that's the time to plant them. They don't give you tulips and daffodils in the spring. So it's the same thing. So you plant your garlic in October, and then you pull them up and then put them back in. Pull them up in the spring, and then you let them dry out, and then you put them back in individually per clove in the fall. So you're taking, because you're using the clove and not the seed, you're taking and shorting the growing cycle to 1 year because you've got a massive clove.
You're skipping the seed.
So when we harvest this, when we get ready to plant come October, we'll take all these cloves and we're going to break them up, and we're going to use some of it for our cooking and whatever we're going to do with it. But the biggest ones, we get those big fat jokers, and those are the ones we put back in because it gives it the biggest, fastest chance to get going. So it starts growing in October, and then of course winter kills it out, but the bulb's still in the ground and it's got its root base ready to go come springtime, and then it just explodes. So even though we already had still had some snow and cold, because this spring was really rough with the weather changes that we've got, these things busted through and we're starting to grow in late February, early March. So there's a couple things you can try there. See how that works, and realize that you got to know the growing cycle of the plants.
So I've been thinking about getting into bees. And what I want to know is what's the very first thing that I would need to do to get bees started?
Well, the first thing I always recommend to everyone is to do your homework first. So, I'm going to say this over and over and over again because people don't get it through their heads. You always go to those who have succeeded at what you want. So, as far as YouTubers are concerned, there's 2 YouTube channels that I highly respect their information. And they don't always agree on everything because they're in 2 different climates. This really helps you understand some things.
Yeah.
Brett at B&K Bees, he's up in the UP of Michigan. He was in the lower part and he's moved up to the upper part of Michigan. He's done a lot of good videos on understanding and learning about bees. The first one we went to was Dave over at Barnyard Bees, and he's just north of you up there in Georgia, right?
He's in Georgia.
Georgia. So he's not too far away from you to the north. So I sat down when we, because we weren't planning on getting bees,
No.
and then the guy that
You were helping just said, "Here, have some bees."
yeah, he says, well, I've got an order from bees, and one nuke's for me, and then and another one's for a friend of mine, and he can't take it, and he says, do you want them? I said, yeah, yeah. So before we got them, T and I sat down because we knew we had 3 or 4 weeks before we were going to get them.
About that, yeah.
We sat down and we binge watched all the bee videos that we could. Now, I'd probably know as much as those guys do now, but they've already done it. There's no sense in me other than saying, hey, look, I'm doing it. Why should I take away from somebody who's already done a good job of it? So you go watch Dave or Brett, and you watch their videos, and you binge watch them, and you're going to learn about everything from the varroa mites, which I've never had a problem with, to hive beetles, which I do have a few issues with, but not too bad, to doing splits or catching swarms, because we just went through 3 swarm catches. By the way, the last one I failed on miserably. Don't ask me what I did or what's going on, but we had another one come in, swarm number 3, and I put a box in there, and they just did not want to go into that box. I knocked them in, they'd all go in, and then they'd all come right back out. And then they eventually took off and went up into a tree, and I couldn't get them. So there's successes and failures you're going to have, even with knowing everything that you can know, because this is life. You're not going to succeed every time the first time. So I learned a lot because I watched those 2 guys. Then there's another guy, who Doug and Stacy are. Okay.
Dr. Leo.
Dr. Leo. So he, I listened to him and some of his videos, and he was talking about the long hive. And we had started with those
Those are heavy.
those 10 frame boxes, and you'd have to pull a whole box off, and those things will be 80 to 100 pounds if they're full of honey. They're huge and heavy, and then it's obnoxious. So I liked what Dr. Leo said. Now, being a woodworker, and he's not a woodworker, he just slapped his together and it's working, and I'm not going to knock him, but I like to do re-engineering things because I'm a woodworker. That's my passion.
And an engineer.
Yeah, an engineer. So I redesigned it, and I came up with this design. It's real simple, so that I could have a 30 frame. That's 3 boxes, 3 10 frame boxes, all long ways, and you can go in. It's the same concepts with slightly different tweaks in the woodworking. So that's how I changed it for my purpose here.
Well, and it's easier having a long hive because you can open up one section and not disturb the rest of the hive, where with those stackable boxes
you got to
tear it all apart just to find the queen. And at least with the long hives, you just open one section up at a time, and it's so much easier and calmer on the bees that way.
The bees like it better. And they got all kinds of room. You do have to know how to manage the size of it. So if for some reason you get a die out or a split, bees like to live in something that's just a little bit bigger than what they have as far as a colony.
Right.
Which means if your colony gets too small, you need to pull frames and kind of pack it down. So there's a lot of different things you got to learn about this style, because it's like that with a if you're using the 10 frame Langstroth boxes, you're only going to use a box per however many bees you got. So you're not going to have like 2 empty boxes on top of only 1 full box. You'll add a box as you go, as they expand, and then you'll take boxes out as they contract, because the colonies will contract just before you go into winter. They won't produce nearly as many bees. The queen will stop laying as much because she knows she's got to conserve her resources for going into winter. So there's all this stuff that you got to learn, and I say go learn from the guys who really, really know their shit. Dave is a good one. Brett's a good one. And yes, I've got a lot of videos, and I could sit there and do all the videos that they did, but why? I don't need to. They've done a good job of it.
The only guy on YouTube I've seen it with the bees is Lead Farmer 73.
There's about 4 or 5 other really big name channels besides Brett and And Dave, there's the bee man, the fat bee man. Does that sound right? I think.
No, I don't remember, but I think I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good folks out there. But see, you know, for me, as far as doing videos, I got so many other things that we could talk about, and so many things that I have a passion for. I got the bees. I did the video on the bees so I could show you guys that you can accomplish anything. You can accomplish anything that you want if you're willing to do what is necessary. And sometimes it means if you don't have the money, you build your own damn box, and you've got the skill sets to do that, considering some of the construction I've seen you do.
Yeah.
So you can build your own hive.
Oh yeah, I don't think it'd be anything to it. As long as I figure out the plans and what I need to.
Well, I got a set of plans, and I got the video for it. Yeah. So the one thing that I feel like I've improved upon, and that's the whole point. Why did we come here? We all came here spiritually to find problems and come up with solutions and make things better. So then that's what we're all doing. We found that the systems that we were living in were failing, and now we're trying to figure out how to go back to a more natural way of doing things. So any other questions that you might have about the bees?
I guess the only other question I have right now would be, how often do you pull honey out?
You generally do it once a year.
Once a year.
Some places down south might do it more times because they got a longer season, but there's cycles that we go through. So my rule of thumb that I've always said about bees is that you absolutely should go into your bees at least once a week when you're above 65 degrees. If you get above, because you don't want to go into a hive below 65, you get chill brood, and they don't like it. They're not happy with it. But as long as it's above 65, you should go in at least once a week. That's one rule that I've stated that none of the other folks that because that's my personal belief that you need to maintain and monitor it. Now, I don't do that as much now. I don't even follow that rule because I know what I'm looking at when I'm seeing them. I understand them now, so that I know I don't need to right at the moment. But when you're first getting started, you need to learn, just like with the garlic or the potatoes, you need to learn pigs frolicking. That was funny. Sorry you didn't have the camera face.
No, I didn't. It was just a quick.
Little copper took off through that tall grass, and it just like a bowling ball through there.
It was just a quick thing. I wasn't prepared for it.
So you're gonna want to learn how to work them in your particular area. I do know there's folks that live in areas that technically you're not supposed to have them, and they have them. If you know how to be very discreet in your positioning of them or where they're at, so that they're not seen. And if you're on top of it when you need to split, or when they're going to swarm, and because they're going to swarm every year, that's how they reproduce. They split themselves by swarming, and if you don't catch that, then you need to split them ahead of time, or you need to preempt this so you don't lose the bees. But if there are people that are in cities where you're technically not supposed to do this, because we don't want you doing that because it's not safe for the neighbors, and they've got bees. So you can do things in a lot of ways if you learn techniques on how to work around issues. So.
Morning, Copper and Cole.
Y'all nutty.
You gonna feed us, Mama? Oh, look at that. Oh, scratch, scratch, scratch. Oh, I like that. Give me some more.
Oh, she says.
Give me some more.
Like that? You gonna eat my shoes?
Yeah, she's gonna eat your shoes. We didn't bring you any treats. Sorry, guys.
You're all sloppy.
He's like, don't
he's always been a little bit more skittish than her. She's the bullhead. Dirty too. Ugh. Dirty.
Hey, that's okay.
Like,
They have their cool spot they were laying.
Yeah, we got that rain last night, so
they got
I gotta weed. Bad.
It's okay.
No.
We
So
we got lawnmowers.
you ain't got pigs yet.
Don't have pigs. I got plenty of wild hogs up in the woods where I live.
Lots of
Around,
them.
there's a little state park close to me. It's a Civil War battlefield. It's called Blakely State Park.
Yeah.
And it was one of the last battles of the Civil War. But there's, now it's a place where people go camping. And there's trails in there through the breastworks and everything. And there's a lot of wild hogs out in the woods there. And when we go camping up there, sometimes you can hear them all out in the woods, just
Grunting away like that.
well. You can hear the grunting, but you can hear they're rummaging through the leaves. You
Yeah.
know? Oh, you can just see where they just destroy the ground.
Yeah. So these are American
American Guinea Coon cross.
American Guinea Coon cross, and we got them from some friends of ours that are not too far away from us. They're actually moving. They got a hey, shh, go lay down. Go lay down.
She's like, no, you're talking.
Yeah. They got a YouTube channel. It's
Three little goats homestead.
Three Little Goats Homestead. I've shown you them, or they've talked about us too. So they're not too far from us, and they were raising these. And last year when we had the others, those were the first years we did the Hampshires.
Oh, I don't like the Hampshires.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
He's like, it's too hot. I need to cool down.
And we just didn't like the way they tore up the ground so bad. This area over here in that paddock was just
That hole right there is what they dug.
no that hole.
No, we dug that hole.
We dug that hole.
Dug that hole.
But they dug a bunch of. So it took us a lot to clean it up.
Yeah.
It took us a hell of a lot to clean it up. These guys are more grazers, except this one particularly, she was getting to start digging. She was starting to root stuff up. So
That's the American Guinea in her.
Yeah, and we went ahead and put a ring in her nose. I do like the others for the meat production. So if we had facilities where I didn't care about the ground as much as I care about the ground, I would probably just let them tear it up, because some people who have these Hampshires, the bigger ones, they're called feeder hogs because they're there to eat, and they get big, and it's just the same as like meat birds.
Yeah.
They're not really long-term sustainable. So when we saw Jamie and Jesse over at Three Little Goats Homestead, they had these, and they said, oh, well, these don't actually root as bad. And they don't. They really don't, except for this one was starting to.
Yeah.
We said we'll give them a try. They're very compact. They're very bulky. They're a lot slower growing. I mean, because last year at this time, the Hampshires, they were
my waist size, dang near.
They were big, but we raised the Berkshires.
We raised Berkshire, Yorkshire blue butts.
Well, it's a Yorkshire blue butt cross, which is like
that was Max.
And then we had a Berkshire boar.
Yes.
And that son of a gun.
He was
almost 900 pounds when we put him in the freezer. He was huge.
How much do these weigh now, roughly?
I'd say this was probably 100 and.
Little over 100 pounds.
Around 100, 110 maybe. That one's probably closer to
Almost
80 to 90. Yeah. 80 to 90. That's just rough guessing. They're not as big as I'd like them to be, but they will get a little bigger.
Yeah, they'll grow a little bit more.
They'll
be about knee high, I think, by the time they're done, because that's what Jamie and Jesse's are. They're knee high on me.
And they're a lot easier.
They're more gentle.
These guys
they're
have been a lot more more personable, more gentle. The bigger hogs, people tend to get a little more skittish of them because the old saying about how do you dispose of unwanted visitors is go watch Fried Green Tomatoes.
I love that movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie. They show you what you can do with them, but Matter of fact, I had a local guy that I was working with, and he's like, well, you got hogs. Well, now we got a place to dispose of the dead bodies. And I'm going,
No.
no, because here's the thing.
What you feed them is what you eat.
What you feed them is what you're going to... I'm not doing that.
No.
But, you know, have a backhoe or something like that for that. But, you know, these guys...
I love these guys.
These guys are awesome. You can have them in a much smaller area.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we could open up that area right now and let them...
Yeah, I want it to get more established first, though. We could let them graze over there, but I really want to... See, this is established.
Yeah.
And...
So what questions you got, Paul?
Well, how much longer before you butcher them?
I'm not butchering these.
You're not butchering them?
No.
All right, so whenever you get into any form of meat production or animal husbandry, especially with animals like this, cows, goats, or whatever, and this is the thing that a lot of people don't understand about homesteading and or prepping, is real simple. It is such a long startup period because we got these as little piglets.
Yep.
These are going to be breeders. I'm not going to butcher these. These guys are going to be...
I see you, sweetheart.
These are going to make pigs. So they're 6 months now because we got November. Yeah, 6 months.
Yeah.
So November, December, January, February, March, April, May, 7 months.
Almost 7 months.
They are entering maturity, but they're still not fully grown. When they get fully grown, they should be a good bit bigger than this. And then you have to go through them mating, how long she has them, which is most of the pigs, the general rule is 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days is what they said, which doesn't make sense. Well, I don't want you to say just shy of 4 months.
Yeah.
No, 3 months, 3 weeks. And anyway, you got to wait for that. And then you got to wait for those piglets for this entire length of time to get big enough to butcher. Yeah. So with these guys, it's going to be a little bit longer than the other ones, I think. Because last year, in May last year, we took those others to the butcher in the end of May. Oh, that's
this is happiness, folks.
Happiness.
This is happiness.
That's pure happiness. So, I don't, and it wasn't but 2 or 3 weeks after we took those to the butcher that the two that we were going to keep for breeders actually bred, and then she didn't have her babies till October. It was end of September and almost October.
It's whenever Sunny come and got her apple press. I don't remember when that was.
Then. And then we sold off the ones.
We sold all them off, and then we ended up butchering.
Yeah, we got not quite a bit frustrated with them because the temperament in your animals is a big thing.
I didn't like the temperament.
Not in that breed. They're very bullheaded. They were very aggressive, where these guys aren't.
No, these guys are different.
Of course, size makes a difference.
If somebody wants to get started with pigs, like something like this, what do they need? Like, how much money do they cost? How much land do you need for them?
All right, so everything is an opinion, and some opinions are better than others. My opinion is you want as much grazing ground as possible. This right here, how big is your lot that you live in?
It's not even an acre.
No, of course
maybe
not.
a half an acre.
How wide is it in the front? How
I
deep?
would say it's about 75 feet wide.
50 or 75?
It's about 75 feet wide.
75?
Maybe a little bigger.
And how
then deep? It's probably 200 feet maybe.
200 feet's a lot.
I mean, it's every bit as far as, let's see, from that fence there.
All right, so is your lot is your lot?
It's actually about as big as this area right here.
All right, so
maybe a little bit slimmer.
Okay, so let's go with it. So this is a hard thing for people, and being the surveyor,
it's got a house, in it.
Okay, so being the surveyor, I'm really good at seeing sizes, distances, and stuff. So let me explain something. From this roadbed down here, all the way up to the roadbed where we park at, there's 300 feet. All right, from the center of this roadbed up to about where the beehives are is 150 feet. But because we're shorter here, we're about 100 foot here. So a lot of city lots are 50 by 100, or 75 by 100, or 50 by 120. They're in that square rectangular size. So the area, so just do a little pan around. All the area, look at the trees, slow and easy, honey. Look at all the trees. This area that I've cleared out, that T and I have cleared out here, is about 1.25 acres, and that's just rough guessing it. This paddock right here is, let's see, each one of these fence posts is 10 foot apart, so you got 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, we got about 70 foot wide, and then we got, I think it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 110, 120, 130. There's 130, about 70 by 130. All right, well, that's the big question. And that's why I have 2 paddocks, and this is why we talked about in the chickens all about sustainability. Now, if you can go buy food and corn and wheat is readily available cheap, then you can do it in a smaller paddock and you can feed them. But the whole reason we've been doing this is because I know there might be a chance where there's some point down the road where we can't go to the store, the feed store, and get food, or we just don't want to afford it because of the collapsing dollar and that kind of situation. So all of that wrapped into it, the whole concept is to make sure that if we run out of and we can't get corn for these little guys, that they will graze. And these are good grazers.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we went
These
to them.
guys are good.
So what we have here is about a little over 1/10 of an acre, maybe close to 2/10 of an acre. It's not very much. So we're talking 70, and it's a little narrower up here. So you're probably talking about a 60 by 120 lot right here, which is a standard city lot. I don't feel that that is enough for these 2. That's my personal opinion. Now, they do come out here and graze, but if we stopped feeding corn, their grazing is going to go way up. So there are online, and I don't know all the answers to the size of it, but there you can go looking at how much land do you need for 1 head of cow, how much land do you need for 1 goat, how much land do you need for a pig, that kind of thing. Because in the end, because we're going through these changes, the whole concept is this: can I feed my animals on my land? Can you be sustainable so that everything that you have comes off of the land that you have available? This is why a lot of people are moving to smaller, faster growing. Oh, look, a cowbird. Little cowbird. They'll come right up to you. Sorry, squirrel moment. Cowbird. Say that 10 times fast.
Cowbirds.
Cowbird moment. So the concept is, the answer to your question, Paul, is it depends on what you can supply them.
Yeah, and it depends on your land too, because if you're out in the desert,
Yeah.
nothing,
If you're out in
you're
the area,
pretty much 100% reliant on feed.
food coming in,
But
which
if
is
you're somewhere where you've got abundant grass and stuff to eat, you're not feeding them as much feed, right?
that's why I have 2 paddocks here. I did 1 paddock here and 1 paddock here so that I can rotate them. That's why I've got 3 paddocks for our chickens and turkeys and ducks and stuff, because if I have to depend on just what we have here, and I can't go out and buy corn or chicken feed or anything for the animals, I can trim down my flock down to maybe just what T and I need, which is be 6 to 8 birds of chickens and maybe a few ducks and maybe a couple of turkeys for breeding, just the breeding pairs like these guys are. I can trim it down to just the breeding pairs, and I can rotate paddocks, and I can let them have enough to graze on. Even with the birds up there, they can graze on all that clover that's growing. And blue jay, nothing but birds.
Would you ever let your chickens for like a few days, just like transport them in this area and let them graze off the greens you got here?
I could do that. a lot of people, and we've talked about this in many other videos, and a lot of you guys out there have commented about, well, turn your birds loose in the garden and let them eat the bugs.
They're gonna eat more than just.
They're gonna
bugs.
eat.
Yeah.
They're gonna go full on buffet on everything. My turkeys will clean all the tomatoes off. They love the tomatoes. See, here's the thing. We feed our animals as much as we can without buying food anyway, which means anything that we pull out of the garden late summer and fall when we're
That's not very good. It goes to the birds.
Yeah, everything goes to the birds or the pigs.
Yep.
So they get that anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're being covered in birds. So anyway, there are a few smaller, faster meat crops for your protein that people are moving to. I've got a guy who's ex-military also, who lives up over in you passed where he's at up there in the Highland area. He's a ways from us. He bought bees from me last year?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. He bought bees from me, and he's doing quail.
Yeah.
And quail is huge because their turnover in reproduction is
It's
huge.
fast, yeah.
6 weeks. You can take a chick from 6 weeks to laying eggs in 6 weeks.
Right.
What?
You can have quails in an apartment if you're smart.
If you're smart and you're quiet and you keep it clean.
Yeah.
So this, it's,
What?
What?
Look here, chicken. Here's a chicken snack right here. I just happened to see it. Look at that grub worm. My chickens love these.
Oh, our birds like those too.
Chickens will go nuts over these grub worms.
Oh yeah, and you don't want them because they're the beetles. These are your June bugs and your other big beetles.
The June
Japanese
bugs that
the
will
small
eat
ones
our...
are the Japanese beetles. These are your June bugs and your other big beetles.
Yep.
I'll pull my pots away from the ground like, look at it, pissing on you.
Don't pee on me, you turd.
Yeah, but I'll, where I've got my my pots sitting next to my raised beds, I'll just move them over to the side after it rains or something, and they'll be all up underneath there, and I'll throw them to the chickens, and they go nuts.
Well, let's go take this one up to the birds. One last note on what the thought I didn't finish up was, there are a lot of potential small animal type of meat proteins that you can raise that you can do in a very small footprint. And he stated kind of, or were you on camera or off camera, stated something about being able to do things in an apartment with the quail and stuff. If you can keep them clean and keep them noise down, you can hide. We said it earlier about bees. I know people who have bees in places that they're technically not supposed to. And when it comes to raising meat, there's aquaponics that can be done inside. Rabbits are a big one. Our friend up in Missouri, he raises rabbits. John, he does a lot of rabbits. He's got some videos on that on his channel. And quail. Those are three big ones. Fish, rabbits, quail, high, fast turnover, and large amounts of meat production. So my friend Bill, who's up the road from us, he does the quail. And unfortunately, in this area, because we don't have a huge population, he's having a hard time finding an outlet for the eggs. But if he can, people will pay a lot for them. There's just not as many people who are accustomed to it because, what is it? Everybody's been taught by Walmart that there's only 5 vegetables, white eggs, and beef, and that's it. I mean, you got, and I'm kind of over exaggerating, but the whole thing is we've forgotten the variety of food that we have available.
Mm-hmm.
So, people, there's no. What did you say? There's no excuse.
No.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse that you can't find some way to produce something. So.
Well, my thing is, even if you live in an apartment, I mean, obviously you're not gonna produce enough food on an apartment balcony to feed yourself.
No, but you can supplement. You can supplement.
You can supplement. But my main thing is for people that live in an apartment. Obviously, if you have our mindset, you're gonna eventually get out of that apartment.
You're gonna get out of it.
But you start to train yourself there. You can learn there.
Practice, try.
Because if you don't know anything about gardening and you just go buy a piece of property, you don't know anything, you're gonna fail.
You're gonna fail.
But if you might have a little bit of time to, in the apartment and start growing stuff in pots and get a little bit of knowledge that way, the more you can learn there, that's the less you have to learn out on the homestead.
Absolutely.
So to me, that's more of a learning thing. That's the purpose.
You started.
Yeah.
Well, and if you can't really do it in your apartment, you can always find a community garden where I mean, that's where, because she loves gardening. She had always been gardening. I never really did a lot of gardening, per se, none, until we got together and we did it in a community garden because
we were in an apartment.
Yeah.
For the short period of time when we first got together, we were in an apartment. I'm like, no, I want to grow shit. I like to, it's in my blood. It's in your blood.
Oh yeah.
And that's the difference. Those of us that's in the blood are probably going to be the ones that make it through the next few years without too much of an issue. Those who aren't, you're going to learn real quick or not. So, next question.
Well, I have a greenhouse.
You built a really nice one.
Yeah.
Mine's a little bit different than this.
Different.
And so, I use my greenhouse mainly for overwintering tomatoes and peppers, even some of my sweet potato slips.
Yeah.
I overwintered a lot of that so I'd have an early start.
Yeah.
Because I could put sweet potato slips in the ground in February, And so, my question is here, what do y'all mainly use this for? How long do you leave stuff in there? What are you overwintering here in this area as opposed to what I'm doing down there? Like, do you use it for overwintering a lot of stuff, or do you use it to start seedlings early? Or
yes, and yes. Now, I will say this. It is a learning process for us because there's some things that we can grow and some things that we don't grow. The biggest one that we've really scratched our heads on is growing the moringa tree. Here we learn about, this is this fabulous tree, moringa, that can produce extremely nutrient-dense leaves. But have we been able to get one to sustain itself and grow? It's not been easy. We've lost them and grown them and started them and lost them. And we do have it in, quite frankly, the moringas are probably too tropical.
Yeah, they're mainly grown in Africa and India because they use they use the seeds and the leaves and I think the bark as part of their.
Yeah, and let's just put it this way: closer to the equator because they are being grown in the tropics in the Brazil and in that area too,
Florida
and Chile. We've heard about it being along anyway. So that that's something we tried, but as far as purposes, there's multiple purposes, and many of you guys that have been with me for many years will remember me saying that there's two main purposes that you want a greenhouse. One, it extends your season, so it allows you to grow things when it's cold out. Two, for things that maybe you don't want exposed to the stuff that will settle on your greens, like your lettuces and kales and stuff, because of what's in the atmosphere. You might grow, especially in the wintertime, you can grow those things so that, you have fresh greens, fresh kale, fresh lettuce during the wintertime. But we do overwinter all our delicate plants. So all our citrus plants that are up on the deck, they all come in. A lot of, like the carrots and the potatoes that are up on the deck, we started them in the cold of winter. We put them in there, or actually the carrots we started in like October. We moved them in and they were growing over winter and the potatoes were growing. So there's a combination of purposes. There are some things like the rosemary that's in the corner, that big bush that's in the corner, that rosemary, that's permanent. It's going to stay there.
It doesn't overheat, huh?
Oh, it freaking loves it. I mean, look at that thing exploding. I've never done so well with rosemary as what we're doing here.
No.
The other things that we're doing, there's a few herbs like the
oregano and marjoram.
Marjoram and oregano that we actually need to clean it out so that we can till it. But now we're actually this year revisiting part of it, because I keep talking about this, possibly taking some of our citrus plants and actually putting them in the ground. All right, so have you seen that? Have you seen that guy? Was he in Iowa?
He's somewhere up north, yeah.
He's north of us. There's a guy that put a in-ground greenhouse, huge in-ground greenhouse.
Like a jalapeno?
Yeah, something like that.
And he's got a geothermal heating system. So he put in a bunch of pipes in the ground to pull heat out of the ground to keep his greenhouse warm during the winter. And he grows citrus.
He grows oranges, yeah. He's growing oranges, I think.
And he's a local citrus producer. It's a big greenhouse, and there's a big YouTube channel on it. It's really fascinating. So I'm thinking that we might do that.
You want to do a jalapeno here?
Well, we're kind of like that right here, similar. The only thing I don't have is set up is the geothermal.
Yeah.
And I don't, I've got the wood stove.
We got the wood stove, so
I don't think I need to set up a geothermal. As you can see, we've removed that.
We did, because it got
to,
yeah.
But I think we're going to maybe on one side of this put in a few of the citrus trees. The big problem with that is, Paul, you were asking about the plastic. The way I've got the plastics, tied down is it's all screwed down, and moving it is hard. And so if I need, all right, so the citrus needs the pollinators. So I need the bees to get to it. So when they flower, and they're preparing, they'll flower here in about a week or two, month or two, sometime here pretty quick. They're getting close to it. When they flower, I need the bees to pollinate it. I've tried hand pollinating them. Doesn't,
a lot of work.
Yeah, and it doesn't work too good.
Yeah.
It doesn't work too good. Tried it. So I need the bees to get to them. So before I do a permanent setting of my citrus trees, I got to figure out how I'm going to do the bees, because if the bees go in there now,
they'll die.
It's a death sentence to the bees.
Too hot.
No, they can't figure out how to get out.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
So they'll come in, they'll visit. So last year we had some coming in because we had some other plants that were blooming, and we left the door open, and they were coming in through the door. And then as soon as they leave the plants, they'd go straight up. And they hit the plastic, and they wouldn't know how to get out.
Can you put a box inside the greenhouse? Or is it
no, because it'd be too hot this time of the year. It'd kill them. But the big issue is they're going to want to fly out.
They need to,
And they need to, no, that you can't contain bees. I think
we talked about trying to.
There was that experiment out there in the desert somewhere where they did that experiment with a biodome to see if people could live on Mars, something to that effect. I think they did bees in that old body. If any of you know what I'm talking about, leave comments in the description. But there was that biodome where they put a bunch of people in there, and they said, you're going to stay here for so many years or whatever, and they couldn't leave, and they had to produce all their own food and whatnot. And I think they had bees in that thing. It was huge.
Yeah.
I think only because it was so big that the bees actually worked, but I'm not for sure. Somebody can maybe refresh it. I know that kind of experiment worked, and it's not easy. Bees, they want to fly, because bees will fly up to 5 to 6 miles away from their hive.
About that, yeah.
So keeping them contained is not easy.
Right.
So yes, and depending upon your climate, the main issue is being able to extend your season, specifically with plant starts. That's what we use it the most for, is get everything started early. Early.
Yeah.
Well, you never know when there's going to be a twist or a turn when it comes to homesteading. We were doing our videos and stuff, and we got a phone call, and sure enough, somebody come to get some bees. So it took us a little while, but hey, we rehomed some bees to some local folks, and everything went good and fun. Pretty fun. You got to see, you got to look into bees a little bit, sort of, kind of, and we were. Yeah, kind of, stuff happens and you just go with the flow. And I love it. You love it. Love the
I'm digging it,
homesteading.
yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. So anyway, we're out here. We were talking about our bird situation, and you had some thoughts that you wanted to share.
Well, I've got chickens and I've got
You
two
got
ducks.
2 ducks.
Got about 18 hens. 4 of them are babies.
Yeah.
So I got 14 laying hens. And I live in a neighborhood though, and a lot of people think if you live in a neighborhood you can't have chickens, and I guess if you have an HOA you can't. But like I said, I live in an old neighborhood, and but I'm doing it just in the neighborhood. I've got my hen house. I got a run that I don't use all the time. I just use it whenever I need to separate babies for a little while, or if I have an injured hen or something like that, I put it in there and lock it up to keep the other hens from picking on it. But I'm just doing it out in the backyard in an area like we were talking about earlier, like the pig area.
Yeah.
About that, my whole piece of property is about that big.
Yeah.
So they only have about half of that, and so I'm making it happen in that small of a space. Plus
Yeah.
with the garden and my greenhouse.
Uh-huh. But you're hitting a lot of different areas of food source production, and you can do that in a smaller area. You don't need this, but it depends upon how many people you're feeding and how much you can do. So homeowners associations are horrible. They're actually.
It's the smallest form of government we have, basically.
Yeah, it is,
Seems like.
and that's where you find the real psychopaths that are your next door neighbors.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I don't know why so many people want to move in those types of neighborhoods.
I don't know either, but well, we're figuring out this world ain't what we thought it was, but you're lucky enough to do it. What you're showing, and what you're trying to show in doing your channel, is that regardless of the circumstances, there's something you can always do.
Well, I'm just showing people that you don't have to have a bunch of acreage to just get started.
No, and there's a bunch of other channels out there. They're showing the backyard farmers, the backyard the people who are doing a lot in a little piece of land.
Yeah. Well, my aim is to get the practice I need, and I may or may not have a bigger piece of land someday. If I have to stay there and make it happen, I will. I'll do the best I can. But if an opportunity comes along in the future where I can get some acreage, I already have, pretty good knowledge.
You'll know what you need to do.
I'll be ahead
to
of the
expand.
game to go ahead and expand it instead of starting from scratch. If I go buy a piece of property and I had no knowledge, then that'd be hard. I mean, it'd be a lot harder than if I did have the knowledge. But now I'm doing it to be able to go ahead and, get some good practice in. And I've got my gardens going, and I've got my bird experience. So if I did get some acreage here in the next year or 5 years or whatever, I'll be that much ahead of the game, and I can get started a lot easier. That's my purpose of doing it.
That's why I've said it to all of you guys the way I have is get it done. Don't screw around. 2 years ago when they initiated this cornholio event, I put out the warning. I said you got 6 months to figure out where you want to be and how you want to be, and maybe that's still living on the land that you got, but figuring out how to homestead on a little lot, or maybe that's moving, or whatever it is that you feel comfortable doing. You better figure out how to be self-sufficient as quick as possible. And in that period of time, the conditions have changed enough that everything I've suggested has been justified. People who are not doing it are in very precarious positions right now, very precarious. The next wave of change that's coming is going to wipe out anybody who hasn't even tried. The things that are coming, people who said, I don't need this, I'm not even going to bother, or whatever, or everything's fine, or they got the blinders on, or whatever it is, those are the ones that are going to have an extraordinarily difficult time.
They're going to become true believers.
They're going to be what is it?
Very quickly.
they're gonna, the famous saying is it's the come to Jesus moment.
Yeah.
And that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, you know, however you want to stay it, you know. Well, let me ask you this. Are you or are you not happier engaged in the source of food that you got?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. Now, am I saying I can sustain myself 100% right now? No.
No, but you're far better along than most.
Oh, yeah. But like I said, my aim was to get started, you know, to get the ball rolling, and then constantly add to it as much as I can, like with the bees. Like my next plan is the rabbits and then the bees. You know, I've already got the fruit trees and the garden and the birds and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know,
You take
I'm limited, but I'm still doing what I can. I'm not using excuses to stop me from doing stuff.
There's no excuses.
Yeah.
You said that's going to be your motto. No excuses.
Yeah, I mean, I'm running a full-time painting business, and I can't stay home every single day and just operate this, you know, what I got going on all day, every day. But I can come home after work, especially, you know, in the summertime when I have a lot more daylight, and do, you know, if I need to take compost out of my bins and spread it out, I can do that. If I need to, any kind of watering I need to do, collecting eggs, anything.
Take care of your homestead.
Yeah, with just a couple hours I can do, even if it's just 30 minutes or an hour, you know, and then I'm done. Like, I don't overwhelm myself with it. And as long as I just stay on top of it, it doesn't get out of hand, you know. And then sometimes I'll take a whole day off, even if it is during the week. Mostly it's on the weekends when I don't work, but every once in a while I might just say, you know what, something's getting out of control over here. I'm just going to go ahead and I'll tell my guys I need to take a day off, and I'm just going to go ahead and just handle that, especially if I need to fix something or build something. I'll just go ahead and just do that.
That's the joy of being
Self-employed.
You're self-employed.
Yeah.
Your entrepreneurship. There's a couple of gentlemen out there that have advocated for that, and one of the ones that I listened to a lot was Kiyosaki, Robert Kiyosaki, talking about the four little areas of what you are, whether you're an employee.
Cash flow quadrant.
Your class for yeah.
Was the ESBI?
Yeah, you see, you know it more than I do.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And so the you know, becoming the entrepreneur, he basically made the statement that the only people who are going to make it through this crash or this change or this reassessment of our social structure are going to be the entrepreneurs. People are going to have to figure it. The whole idea of being able to go get a job and stay there for you know, you're a good portion of your life and be a 20 or 30 year employee at a company, that idea is gone. It's not going to happen. It ended in my career time, in my life. I've watched it. I went from thinking I could have a career in a certain position for, you know, the rest of my life to, well, no, I got to change this. No, I got to change that. You know, it's something that we got to be multi-skilled, multifaceted, capable of doing lots of different things. Out here, how many hats do you wear?
Yeah, shit, it never ends out here.
No, I mean, how many hats? I mean, you know, put every label you can on a hat, and T and I wear them all, and we both wear all the hats together. It's the way it is.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it's been a good day. It's been fun having you up here.
Definitely parents.
Yeah,
for sure.
Parents.
Parents, yeah.
See,
Definitely.
You got a bunch of kids here.
Look at all the ducks just cooled out in
Trying to stay cool in this heat.
clover. It got hot. It was nice and cool this morning after that rain. But so
well,
excitement.
Chickens just do crazy stuff.
Yes, they do.
Don't they?
They're fun. They're such fun animals.
Oh yeah.
All right, so you have your YouTube channel.
Yep.
Mobile Bay Prepper.
I'm down on Mobile Bay on the eastern shore, across the bay from Mobile, and that's in lower Alabama.
And I'll leave a link in the description. Of course, we did the video, and I shared that with people a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to leave everybody with this. I had another discussion with one of our local community members probably 3 or 4 days ago, and this has been on my mind in all of our discussions and videos that we've had over the last 3, 4, 5 years. For those of you who've been along the journey, I got a way to present things that I want to suggest you lay some thought on and think about for a bit. We've talked about a lot of different aspects in a lot of different videos that we've discussed over the years about what is the human aspect, what are we dealing with, who are we, why are we here, lots of questions that we've talked about. But one of the things I've alluded to is what is value. Value. So I want to say something that he and I have been bouncing around, but we haven't said it in these terms, but we've been hitting on it, in unison from different directions. We are spiritual creatures that came here for the physical journey. And in doing so, we all came to the physical realm from wherever it is we came from with the understanding that we were going to experience life, find things that weren't working, and figure out how to fix them. And that's a real simple way to put it. But basically, we had the notion that we came here to make things better. We came here because we wanted to figure out what we're doing, learn something, and figure out how to make things better. Because this is where we can do it. In the materium, in this physical world, is where we can make things better. And that's what's happening with this big shift that we've got going on in our social structure based on the systems that we've lived in that aren't working and functioning anymore, and we see the end of them coming. We're all going, okay, how do we fix this? So that leaves the question out there. The question is this: what is value? What truly is value? And that is, and I'm gonna put it into some new words that I've come up with in my head. There is only the stuff that exists, and it's stated in the Bible, that which is always been, always will be. You know the phrases. I can't repeat them word for word. So the point is this: if this earth and this planet is what it is, and the only things that are here have been here and will be here, what is the difference? What makes things special? What changes things is the creation of life. Now, small animals have their own life creation in their eggs, in their life that they do. But us human beings have a gift that is way above and beyond that, and that is to create other things. So what really gives you value is how much can you create above and beyond mere animals. Let's put it in a few different words here. How valuable are you can be answered with how well do you improve the lives of not only yourself, but everybody else in your world and your community, the people that you interact with. Your value is really an essence of what you take from Earth and all the stuff that we have, and what do you make of it to make your life and other lives better. That's true value. Nothing else has value other than what we take from what is here on this planet. And groom and mold and manipulate and change, and whether it's a tree turned on the wood on the sawmill into a board that's turned into a house, or the animals that we have that we turn into either food or the there they go.
Our ducks don't like the neighbor.
That's that guy. That's a neighbor down there.
Yeah, you're saying.
Yeah, we about 3/4 of a mile away. There's a guy who has a private little airstrip, and he's awful nosy. He likes to fly right over top of us, hanging out the dang plane, looking at what's going on. He's a little nosy.
Maybe he's curious. Maybe he wants chickens.
Maybe he wants it. Maybe he wants chickens too.
Maybe show up one day and say, "Hey,
I don't know.
show me what's going on."
Well,
You never know.
never know. But so the real question is, what do you do that has value? He has a skill set in painting. I have skill sets in woodworking. But our real value is that we can support ourselves enough that we can help others in our creations.
Yeah, people think it's crazy in my area, just what I'm doing in my backyard. I mean, it blows their mind.
Blows their
I
mind.
can't imagine what I'm doing in just a suburban backyard, on a half an acre or whatever. And I mean, with the greenhouse and the garden and the birds and everything and the fruit trees, they just can't comprehend it. Because it's just people have been just brainwashed.
They compartmentalized
Yeah.
down into small compartments. So Mobile Bay Prepper, I'll leave a link in the description. I've been really happy to have you all come along for our little visit and our ride. Paul is a good friend of mine, and it was a little weird the first day. I know you.
Yeah.
You're Erin.scott.
You looked at me like I was a cop.
I'm like, fuck, I'm out here. It was crazy, but it's the way the universe works.
Yeah, I literally just moved up there and had no idea that you even lived in the area, and I just happened to stumble upon one of your YouTube videos, and I saw the mountains in the background, and I said, man, that looks just like the Bitterroot Mountains. But I still didn't know where you were in the valley.
No.
And I just happened to see you, like, whatever it was a few weeks later, just happened to stumble upon you in person.
Well, that's happened a handful more times now, and the first time when you did that, it was like, do I run?
I'm sure you were thinking, well, you don't sound like you're from around here, though.
Yeah.
Here I am, some, Southern Alabama boy who just happened to be living in the Bitterroot that year. And it just, I don't know, the timing was right, and it just happened.
So,
Well, and it's
but
good
it's
at friendship.
It's a good thing. We've met a lot of good people that way. I've traveled. I've got a lot of really good YouTube subscribers and friends that we've made. T and I have, we got a lot of you out there the same way. And hopefully we can share some more visits from other folks over the time.
Yeah, I hope you can.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. We were talking about the other cabin and it being a B&B, an Airbnb or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah, people love that kind of stuff.
We got a visitor. She wants to see what we're doing.
It's been a crazy day, fun day, happy day, and we wish you all have the same kind of time. So, on that note, anything else you want to add?
I'm just going to say get out there and make it happen,
Yep.
I mean, no excuses. Just,
No excuses.
I mean, I'm not saying you got to get out there and build a whole homestead in a day, but just do what you can.
Well, it takes more than a day.
Yeah,
T and I can testify. It's 3 years and we.
Well, Rome wasn't built in a day.
No.
just get started and do something.
Do
something.
Do something.
And then when you do something and you have successes, it gives you confidence to do a little bit more.
Exactly.
You're going to have some failures, like I have. I mean, I have failures all the time, but I just keep going, and I learn from those failures. And then, the garden that I have now, everything's exploded this year.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of luck and just determination, but, just in my backyard, I'm growing more than I can eat back here. Than we can eat, me and my wife and my son. And what I don't eat, I give to friends, or I compost it, or give to the birds. It doesn't go to waste.
No,
So,
but it's a cycle. It's real
absolutely.
good. So,
And it's an experience, you know.
oh, Shadow's trying to get her last word in too.
Yeah. She's like, hi, here I am.
Well, anyway, it's been a long day. This has been a really long video, and I'm glad for all of you who stuck with us this long in the video. Thank you so much for sticking around. Appreciate it. Thanks to all the Patreon supporters. We appreciate you, and maybe you can get up that way at some point to add that to your entourage of entrepreneurship deals. Got some computer work to do here. And
Definitely got to learn how to operate that computer.
yeah, so we can
But I'll get there.
get some videos. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a good day. It's been a good day. Hot, and we're losing sun again, so we got to get going. We got other things to do. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for meeting my good friend here, Paul, and Mobile Bay Prepper. Check them out. Link in the description. You have a blessed day, and
See you later.
Roll Tide.
say
Bye.
bye-bye.